Hi friends, this is 30 going on 13. So I'm in my 30s, but I feel like I'm just now learning things that I wish I would have learned when I was 13. Turns out I have a lot of learning and healing to do. And this is where I'm going to do it. So let's go. It's time to grow. Today, I have not written a script or thought about a script. I just literally pressed record, so we'll see what happens. Move this with my foot. Then I look naked. Okay, I just hit my face. I could just do that. That looks cute. Okay. Blah, blah, I hate this intro. Take 5. Hi everyone, welcome back to 30 going on 13. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking all about my autoimmune disease called vitiligo. Vitiligo is a skin condition, so if you want to see what my skin looks like, this is actually a video episode, so you can watch the video on Spotify, and I'm going to be inputting pictures of my progression of it as well, so you can see that in the video on Spotify. I am wearing shorts and a tank top, so you can see up close and personal what my skin looks like. I originally was diagnosed with vitiligo in 2018, so it has been quite a journey. And my skin has changed a lot since I saw my first spot. So I'm going to be talking all about that in today's episode. This is episode 20, baby. Let's get it. Like I said, I have vitiligo. Vitiligo is an autoimmune disease that affects your skin and the pigment in your body. So basically, as you can see on my body now, or if you're not watching, I will tell you about it. I have white spots all over my body. On my arms, on my hands, my face, on my legs, just everywhere. I'm covered with white spots. When I first was diagnosed, I did do some research on it, but honestly, I just decided to accept it and accept my skin for what it is. And as it progressed and as it got worse, I just kept learning to accept it. So I stopped the research and all of that. So I don't really know too much about it. I just know the basics, but basically, it's an autoimmune disease and my pigment cells no longer work in certain areas. So don't quote me on this, by the way. If you're interested in learning about vitiligo, contact your dermatologist or chat GPT. But this is from my understanding. So vitiligo affects your pigment cells. And so I have pigment cells in my body. We all do. And when you go into the sun, your pigment cells are working to basically change your skin color to be tanner. So my pigment cells stopped working in certain areas, which are the areas on my body that are white. So very, very, very fair skin, very pale. So in those areas, when I go into the sun, I no longer get tan. I only burn. So now I have to be very, very careful going into the sun. I have to reapply sunscreen every 20 minutes if I'm out in the sun in the summer. And autoimmune disease means that your body is essentially attacking itself. And so my cells inside are just going at one another and affecting my pigment cells from functioning properly. So that's what I think vitiligo is. Also, for reference, if you guys know Winnie Harlow, she's a celebrity. She is a model and she has vitiligo. So if you need to Google her real quick, you can see what vitiligo looks like. Vitiligo is more apparent and prominent on darker skinned people because their pigment does work in certain areas, which is what makes them dark skin. But then the pigment cells don't work in other areas, which is what makes them really fair skin. And since they are already really dark, that contrast of colors is what makes it more prominent in darker skinned people. So for me, luckily, I'm pretty fair skin. So in the winter, you really can't see it that much because I'm naturally fair skinned. I live in New York. So in the summer, that's when you can definitely see that I have vitiligo because I do have pigment cells that work in certain areas. So those areas get tan, whereas the other areas of my body where the pigment cells do not work, they stay pale. So then you see more of that contrast. So every summer I get pretty self-conscious, but that's for later on in the episode. I'll go more into that. So yeah, so now that you understand a little bit about what vitiligo is, I'll talk to you about my journey. So back in 2018 was the first time that I ever saw a white spot on my body. It was pretty small, about the size of a quarter, and it was a white spot right under my eye. And how I first noticed it was in the winter. And I used to go tanning at Beach Bum, and I went tanning And I came out of the bed and looked in the mirror and I saw a white spot under my eye. So I was like, what's that? That's weird. I've never seen that before. And I thought maybe I like didn't rub in the lotion or something. So that was why it was white. But then I think I went tanning again the following week and same thing, the same white spot appeared. So I was very confused. I had no idea what it was. And when I realized that it kept showing up when I went tanning, I was like, okay, that's really weird. Something's off. Maybe I should go to the dermatologist. So I made an appointment, went to the dermatologist. They turned off all the lights in the room and they used this UV light, I think. Don't quote me on that, but they used some fancy light that she put over my face and was able to then see other white spots on my face. And that day was the day that she told me my diagnosis of vitiligo. I had been tan my whole life. Like in the summers, I would get really, really dark and I loved laying on the beach. And obviously I was going tanning. So I just loved being tan. So getting this diagnosis of vitiligo and learning what it was so upsetting to me. I cried a lot. And then I learned that it was just affecting me cosmetically. It wasn't a disease where I had to worry about my health. It was just affecting me superficially. Even so, it was really, really difficult for me to get that diagnosis and to accept it and to figure out a plan of action of what I was going to do with this news. And I had a boyfriend at the time. I told him, I told my family. Obviously, everyone was like, you're still beautiful. No matter what happens to your skin, you're going to be beautiful. But I just remember her telling me, you have vitiligo. It's a disease that can spread. And there's no telling of where it will spread to and when it will stop and if it will stop. And so that was really scary to hear because I'm a girl who's used to being so dark in the summers and loving every second of that. And I felt really confident whenever I was tan. And now I'm getting this news of my skin could be completely pale, completely white all over my body. No one knows. No one can tell me how I'm going to look in a year. No one can tell me how I'm going to look in 10 years. No one can tell me anything. All they could tell me was what the disease was. And that was really hard for me to accept. So it's been about 6 years with this diagnosis. And from that one spot under my eye, I now have vitiligo all over my body, from my feet all the way to my face, everywhere. The only places that I don't have vitiligo is my stomach and my back. But I do see some spots moving around, sorry, to show you on the video, but I do see some spots coming in on the side of my body. It's definitely progressing still. Since I live in New York and only get tan in the summers, every summer my skin has looked different for the last 6 years. It has gotten worse. And so when the rest of my body gets tan, I see more and more white spots every single summer. So every summer is really tough on me because I have to look down and see my body change once again. And I think as the years go by, it's getting easier to accept, but it's definitely still hard because I feel the prettiest and the most beautiful when I am tan. So it's a really difficult diagnosis to deal with still currently, which is why I self-tan every week. And now in the video, you'll see my vitiligo because I self-tanned like 5 days ago. So the self-tan is pretty much wearing off. It's not fully off, but most of it is off. So you will see a lot of my white skin. And also I want to say that just because I'm insecure or having a hard time with accepting my really fair skin doesn't mean that I think it's ugly on other people. Doesn't mean that if you also have vitiligo, you should be feeling this way. This is just my personal struggle and my personal journey with it. I just like to be tan. That's it. So that's why it's hard for me. Over the years, like I said, my skin has changed. The vitiligo has gotten worse every year. So I know this summer it will probably get worse as well. I'll notice more of it. But I think the hardest thing about the disease is, I'm just about to get emotional. I think the hardest thing for me with this disease is just me not feeling the prettiest when I'm not self-tanned. So when my self-tanner wears off and I'm looking down at the really fair skin on my body, there's just a feeling inside of me that it's just like I'm not beautiful. And I know I'm beautiful, Like on the inside, I know I'm beautiful. When I put makeup on, I feel beautiful. When I do my hair, I feel beautiful. When I have self-tanner on, I feel so beautiful. But when it wears off is when I struggle. And I don't talk about this like ever, which is why I love having this podcast, because it forces me to talk about things that I don't usually talk about on a daily basis. So yeah, it's really hard for me accepting my diagnosis and looking around and seeing everybody has the skin that I used to have. Now that it's winter here in New York, people go on vacation and they come back really tan. I just think like that will never be me again. Like I could never do that again. And it's really hard because I love to be tan. And this can sound so superficial and so silly, but for years I looked a certain way, and then out of nowhere my body completely changed without me having any say and without any answers of when it will stop or how I will look a year from now. It's just hard wanting to look a certain way and never being able to accomplish that because it's out of your control. I can't change my skin color. I can self-tan, but that's annoying too because I have to do it every week and it takes time and I have to schedule it into my already busy schedule. So it's just annoying to have to self-tan. And sometimes I just don't want to self-tan. But then if I don't feel confident. And I know that the people in my life think that I am so beautiful and they remind me of that all the time. And they tell me all the time that my skin is so cool and unique and different. And I try to tell myself that I was made to look differently because I am just so different. And I was made to look unique because I'm so unique. So that's what I like to tell myself. But at the end of the day, my skin is not the way that I want it to look. And I have no control over it. So it's really hard. And it's also really hard when people stare at me, you know, strangers in public, little kids who don't know any better, adults even will stare at me and look at me as if I am an alien. And I know they're staring at my skin. I've gotten better at accepting that and being like, yeah, I look really cool. Like, keep looking. But since I'm talking about it, I'm letting it out. And it's hard sometimes. Sometimes I just don't want to be stared at. Like sometimes I do like to be stared at because I think I look really cool. But then other times I just want to like not be stared at in that way. So at times that's hard to be stared at in public. And something else that I think doesn't really help my situation is that I was in a relationship with somebody who didn't like my skin, who basically saw my skin change and didn't like it and told me verbatim, he said, "Your skin gives me anxiety." I was already dealing with my skin changing color. So obviously internally I'm struggling and I'm dealing with a lot. And then at the same time, the man that I'm madly in love with is telling me that my skin is ugly, essentially, and that it gives him anxiety. Also, that person booked me a dermatologist appointment. He booked my first spray tanning appointment. And if we ever were going out, not even like a huge event, but just going out socially, and I didn't self-tan at that point or go spray tanning at that point, he would remind me without fail, "You're going to self-tan today, right?" And to be constantly reminded that my skin was not to my boyfriend's liking was really difficult. Like I was struggling so much with accepting my own skin and the change of my own body. And then on top of that, the man that I love is literally making me feel so ugly. And I remember saying, like, if you think I'm ugly, I don't understand. Why are you with me? And we would fight over it and I would cry over it all the time. And all he wanted to do was cure it. All he wanted to do was cure me. All he wanted to do was change my skin back to the way that it was. And his reasoning was that he wanted to change my skin because he knew I didn't like it. And so he was like looking out for me kind of a thing. But I knew he wanted to change my skin because he didn't like my skin, because he told me that multiple times. So even if a part of him was doing it for me, there was still a very large part of him that was trying to change my skin for him and for his benefit, because he no longer was attracted to me. So not only was I struggling with accepting my autoimmune disease, I was also struggling with my boyfriend at the time telling me that I was ugly. He didn't verbatim say I'm ugly, but that's what he was alluding to, that he wasn't attracted to me anymore. And at that time, we had been together for a while, at least a year and a half. And he knew me. He knew how beautiful of a person I am. He knew how big my heart was. And that was why I thought he was in love with me, was for all of those qualities. Obviously, I knew he was physically attracted to me, but I thought he was really with me for the person that I was. And so since my skin started changing color and he basically became more and more unattracted to me because of it, it made me realize like, wow, this man really doesn't love me then, because he doesn't love who I am. He just loved how I was looking all of this time. And I remember telling him, like, if you lost a limb, if you lost your hair, I would still love you no matter what happened to you, because I love you and who you are as a person, which, like, I'm not even gonna get into that, but that's how I felt. And that's what I expressed to him, was like, how could you so easily make me feel like crap about the way that my skin looks, when, like, if something happened like this to you, I would never in a million years make you feel like this. So that was really hard too, that whole relationship. And, you know, if I was with a different guy during that time, I wonder, like, would I still feel insecure about my skin now? Would I still want to self-tan now? I don't know. But that definitely didn't help my whole acceptance of the disease. But I'm out of that relationship now, thank God. And I'm around people who absolutely love me and cherish me and think I'm the most beautiful thing in the world. So that definitely helps. I don't think it really has anything to do with anybody else at this point. I think it's just more of an internal battle that I'm dealing with. I want there to be a day where I can look down and see my white skin and be proud of it and really, truly, truly be in love with the way that I look. And I know that day will come. And I know I have to put in more work to get there. And I have come a really long way already with it. Like, even doing this episode and bringing light to my disease and how I feel about it, and showing it on camera and showing it in this video and talking about it. I know by releasing this episode, it's going to make me feel much better about it. And every time I talk about it with people, it does make me feel better, because it's not that elephant in the room anymore. Like, sometimes people just are super polite and they won't say anything about it, but I know deep down they're probably like, what is going on with her skin? Like, is she okay? Some people don't know what vitiligo is. So I think talking about it definitely helps, because then people understand what it is. They usually always say really good things about it. So I know that releasing this episode will help me. And again, this entire podcast is to help me heal and to help me love myself. And so that's what this episode is going to do. It's going to help me love my skin and love that this happened to me. And a lot of times I question why it happened to me, and like, why me and not other people around me. But I really do hope that this episode can help other people out there who may be struggling with accepting themselves fully, whether it be an autoimmune disease or anything else. I'm clearly insecure about my skin, and I'm owning that, and I'm sharing that with the world. So I'm hoping that whoever's listening, if you're insecure about something, you know that at the end of the day, what matters is what's inside of your heart. And if you're a good person, that's truly, truly what matters, not how you look. And beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And I'm here to tell you that you are beautiful exactly as you are. And although you might not feel it, I think if we just tell ourselves enough every single day that we are so beautiful and so loved, eventually we will fully believe it. And I know I will fully believe that one day, very soon, very, very soon, because I feel like I'm almost there. But yeah, I hope you guys feel less alone by me sharing my story. And if you guys have any questions about vitiligo, my autoimmune disease, how I cope with it, how I struggle with it, any questions at all, please DM me on the 30 Going on 13 pod Instagram. I would love to talk about all things autoimmune disease, all things insecurities. Everybody's insecure about something. So you're definitely, definitely not alone. I also dream that I am with a man one day who prefers to look at my vitiligo than a self-tanner. I want to manifest that into my life, that I am with a man that loves me exactly as I am. I am manifesting for myself that I will be with a man who loves every single inch of my body and every single white spot on my skin, and who will prefer my skin as is, vitiligo and all, and not with self-tanner. I dream of that day where I don't feel like I have to put makeup on to make him happy, where I don't feel like I have to self-tan to make him happy, where I don't feel like I have to wear the nicest outfits or the brand names for him to think I'm beautiful. I know that that's going to be in my future, and I can't wait for that. I can't wait for that kind of love. And I do have to shout out Ready Ron, because he made me feel very beautiful every single day, and he told me my skin was so beautiful exactly as it was. I remember I self-tanned once, and I was like, do you like my skin? Do you like how it looks? And he was like, yeah, but you were beautiful without that too. You really didn't need that. So thank you, Ready Ron, for making me feel beautiful every single day. And I'm sorry it didn't work out between us, but that's the kind of love and treatment that I want in my next relationship, because I won't accept anything else. I accepted poor treatment, and I accepted being with a man who did not love my vitiligo and who did not love me for who I was. And so I'm never going to accept that again. Never. This is me. This is my vitiligo. This is my disease. I have an autoimmune disease, and I'm beautiful. I have pale skin in certain areas, and I'm beautiful. I can't get tan in the summer, but I have such a big heart. I have to reapply sunscreen 1,000,000 times when the sun is out, but I'm funny. I have white spots all over my body, but I love so hard. So I can't wait for the day for someone to be with me and appreciate me and love me for exactly who I am and not for what my skin looks like. So I think that concludes this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to my journey and my insecurities and my failed relationship, and just learning a little bit more about me and what makes me me. And I hope one big thing that you guys can take away from this is that you are beautiful exactly as you are. And I know that is true for me. I am so beautiful on the inside and the outside. And sometimes I struggle to believe it, but deep down, I truly do believe that I am really beautiful, like really, really beautiful. I didn't win Most Beautiful in high school for nothing. So I truly do believe that I am beautiful, and I hope you guys know that you are beautiful exactly as you are. I hope this episode helped you in the way that it helped me. And if it did, then please tune in for the next one on Tuesday. And until then, happy healing. Peace. Whoa, I didn't know I felt that way about vitiligo. This is why I have a podcast. This is why I have a podcast. Free therapy for me and you. Yeah, that's about it, guys. It's been real. Oh, thank God, I thought I wasn't recording. Bye.